This is Siddhartha Gautama. He is the founder of Buddhism. He is the person who first reached nirvana. Nirvana is Buddha's words for release from selfishness and pain. Siddhartha became Buddha after becoming enlightened. Buddhists have a strong belief in reincarnation. That is the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. To break the cycle, one must reach moksha, which is a perfect state of understanding. Here's an interview with Buddha.
Today we have a very special guest. Some of you may know him as the founder of one of the world's most prominent religions, Siddhartha Gautama, also known as the Buddha. Later in the interview, we will be interviewing a Buddhist monk.
Well, Buddha, it is truly an honor to meet you. Please tell us about the origins of Buddhism and what it means to be a Buddha.
It's very nice to meet you. Buddha comes from the word Buddhai, which means awakened. So Buddha means the enlightened one. Buddhism was started about 2,500 years ago in Kapilavastu in the foothills of the Himalayas. When I was just a small baby, there was a prophecy that said that if I stayed inside of the palace, that I was destined to become a world ruler. But if I left home, I would become a universal spiritual leader. My father wanted me to become a great king and a world ruler, so my father isolated me in his palace. I was married and had a child, but I always wondered about what was going on outside of the kingdom. So one day, when I was 29, I ventured outside of the palace for the first time, and I saw an old man, a sick man, a corpse, and lastly, a wandering holy man who seemed at peace with himself. From then on, I decided to spend my life searching for religious truth and end to life's suffering. So I left the palace and set on for my journey.
Wow, that's a very interesting story. What happened next?
I spent the next 7 years wandering through the forest in India seeking my enlightenment. I fasted, eating only 6 grains of rice a day, but that method brought me no closer to the truth. Then I meditated under a large fig tree for 49 days, and I finally achieved the understanding of cause of suffering. From that day forward, I was known as the Buddha, the enlightened one. My first sermon became a landmark in the history of Buddhism. I believe there are 4 main parts to Buddhism. They are called the 4 Noble Truths. First noble truth, the truth of suffering, dukkha. The truth of the cause of suffering, samadhuya. The end of suffering, nirhoda. And the truth of the past that frees us from suffering is the Eightfold Path, magga. The Eightfold Path is like a staircase. If you would like to see enlightenment, you must take it very slowly and work on each step at a time. 1. Right understanding means to understand 4 noble truths. 2. Right thoughts means you think kindly and don't wish pain upon anybody. 3. Right speech. You must refrain from falsehood, stealing, or words. 4. Right action. Don't kill or steal, and helps to develop a mind that is self-controlled. 5. Right livelihood means earning a living in a way that is not harmful to others. 6. Right effort. Effort is the root of all achievement. If you want anything, you must put in effort. 7. Right mindfulness means the awareness of one's deeds, words, and thoughts. 8. Right meditation. Meditation helps one develop a calm and concentrated mind, and helps one for the attainment of wisdom and enlightenment. If you follow the 4 noble truths and the Eightfold Path, you will reach nirvana, which is relief from selfishness and pain.
That sounds very interesting. Thanks.
There are many Buddhist symbols today. Some of the most famous are the 8-spoke Dharma wheel. It symbolizes the Buddha turning the wheel of truth or law, which is Dharma. Another important symbol in Buddhism is a lion. A lion is Buddhism's most potent symbol. It's associated with regality, strength, and power. The 4 Noble Truths are the basic expression of Buddha's teachings. He came up with them after he became enlightened. They are dukkha, life means suffering; samadhoya, the origin of suffering is attachment; nirodha, the cessation of suffering is attainable; magga, the path to the cessation of suffering.
The Eightfold Path is like a staircase. It describes the way to the end of suffering. The 8 steps are right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Go.
Siddhartha, if you leave the castle, you will become a spiritual leader. If you stay in the castle, you become a world leader. I want you to become a world leader, so you cannot leave the castle.
Siddhartha went out of the castle 4 times. This is the first. First, he saw an old man. The second time he traveled out of the castle, in the same year, he saw a sick man. The third time he traveled out of the castle, he saw a dead man. And the last time that Siddhartha traveled out of the castle, he saw a religious man and peace with the world. After seeing this, Siddhartha decided he would become a religious man also.
While Siddhartha was trying to find enlightenment, he studied with many sages, until he finally knew that it didn't work. Then he fasted and only ate 6 grains of rice each day. Once he found out that didn't work, he took long walks in the forest until he saw a fig tree. He meditated under that fig tree for 49 days until he finally knew he had found enlightenment.
This is a map of Buddhist travels. There are 2 very important places on it. Kapilavastu, which is where Buddha was born, and Bodh Gaya, which is where he first reached his enlightenment.
Dharma means the law of life. It is the teachings of Buddha. The teachings have been passed down orally until 80 BC, when Buddhist scribes wrote them down. The teachings were called Pali Canon and also the Trinitata. Both of these are sacred texts. The Buddha was a very severe critic of the caste system. He did not like the fact that you could be born in such poverty or have such high power. Buddha believed in karma, which is one's good or bad deeds. It would determine your quality of life you would have at your next birth. Buddha did not oppose the belief in gods, but believed they obstructed our quest for Nineveh. Shanga, after Buddha's first sermon, he preached only to his followers, which were poor beggars. These followers became the first monastic order. This order of believers is known as Sangha. To learn the Dharma and become a part of Sangha, one must become a poor monk. Once you have joined Sangha, your head is shaved and you get a new name and a new robe to symbolize you no longer have any worldly comforts. Women were also accepted in the practice of Buddhism. The monks and nuns vowed to a life without worldly comforts.
Buddha's death. Buddha died on a full moon in May of 483 BC. He died after becoming very sick. Buddha's last words were, "All creations are impermanent," which means all creations live for a purpose. Buddha may have died, but his ideas and beliefs are still in existence.
Thanks for all your time. Now we are going to have a modern Buddhist monk come in and tell us some more about modern Buddhism. Hello, Athet. Thank you for coming all the way from China to have an interview with us.
You're welcome. What would you like to know about modern Buddhism?
Lots of things. What are the countries that have the most Buddhist population? Is Buddhism still popular?
Buddhism is a very popular religion. About 300 million people around the world are Buddhists. Buddhism is very popular in Thailand, about 95%, Cambodia 90%, Tibet 60%, Sri Lanka 70%, Vietnam 55%. Buddhism is not as popular in North America, South America, or Europe as it is in Asia and Africa. Approximately 6% of the world's population are Buddhists.
Do Buddhists worship idols? And why are many Buddhist countries poor? What do Buddhists think of other religions?
Buddhists sometimes pay respects to images of the Buddha. We do not worship them, however. That is a good question. I do not have a definite answer. There are rich and poor people in every country, and Buddhism does not promise wealth. It guarantees happiness. Buddhists tolerate all other religions, as you can see with our peaceful history. No wars have been fought in the name of Buddhism.
I often hear of karma tied along with Buddhism. What does karma mean exactly?
It's karma.
Karma is
Oh.
the idea that all of our actions
Look,
are consequences. If you are good, life will be good. But if you aren't, you will be punished.
that's very interesting. Thank you for your time. Thanks for teaching us so much about Buddhism.
Many people still worship Buddhism today. About 6% of the world's population are Buddhist. There are many Buddhist holidays, but one of the most important ones is Veska, or Buddha Day. Veska is the major Buddhist festival of the year, as it celebrates the birth, enlightenment, and death of Buddha, all in one day.